Call to order this evening's meeting. Please take the roll call. Mr. Wilson?
Mrs. Briner?
Here.
Ms. Jisling?
Present.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Tuttle?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Are we close?
Yeah.
That's good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, we got that one from a election. Those are back from the Cardinal.
Oh, okay.
Next item on the agenda, nomination and election of the president. Nomination?
Mr. President, Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Tuttle for president.
Second.
Any others? Any others? Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes. Love voting for myself. And next on the agenda, nomination and election of the vice president. Nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Miller.
Yeah. I'm just surprised. That isn't for you. Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes. Next on the agenda, board representative appointments.
We don't need a motion, but volunteers, or are you designating someone?
I'll volunteer to continue as the legislative liaison.
I'll volunteer to continue student achievement.
And I enjoy the Mentor Schools Foundation.
Very good. Establishing place and time of regular meetings of the Board of Education. It's recommended that the regular meetings be set forth. Do I need to do that, or someone else going to read that?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
You're on roll.
In accordance with the section 3313.15 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Education shall fix the time and date for holding its monthly meetings. It is recommended that regular meetings be set for 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of each month, unless otherwise noted. Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, need a motion second.
So moved.
I'm sorry.
Second.
All right. Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Annually, the provisions are made for Board of Education expenses in performing official duties as a board member, and also attending professional meetings and training sessions. It's called a service fund. It's an amount, traditionally the board has budgeted less than the maximum amount allowed. The resolution's asking for authority for $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw? Oh, I did that. I'm sorry, Mr. Tuttle.
Yes.
Resolution for legal counsel is requesting authority to have access and use the same set of legal firms and the Mentor City Law Department on an as-needed basis specific to each need.
Please,
So moved. Second.
please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Annually, the Ohio School Boards Association requests that we join their association. It represents over 700 of the school districts and over 3,500 board members in the state of Ohio. We ask authority to join again in 2015 on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson. Mary.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Also annually, the Ohio School Boards Association asks for membership in the Legal Assistance Fund. It's a modest fee of $250. It allows the Ohio School Boards Association to retain outside counsel when there's an issue of importance to all of their 700-member school districts. We've traditionally joined in the past and would recommend rejoining again for 2015.
So moved. Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Likewise, the National School Boards Association represents over 13,000 school districts nationally and over 90,000 board members. Request formal action to renew membership every January. We've been a member for many, many, many years, requesting authority to process the application for 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
The Ohio Revised Code requires the Board of Education appoint a hearing officer. The resolution before you would designate Superintendent Mr. Miller or his designee to serve as hearing officer for student discipline matters.
So moved. Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
There's a collection of compliance officers required by several state and federal statutes. Superintendent prepares this list every year and is presented for your formal action.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ohio Revised Code permits the board to designate the superintendent to establish class fees, student fees, and other appropriate fees for the school district, including lunch prices and extracurricular fees. Traditionally, the board has used that authority for the superintendent. It's presented for your consideration again this year.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
The next is an audit compliance issue. We're requesting authority to compensate some miscellaneous duties performed by certificated and classified staff members. This would be such things as one of our regular employees being a ticket taker or participating in some of the events throughout the district that with proper documentation of time. We can pay without specific additional board action. We've done this for many years. Auditors are happy, employees are happy.
So moved. Second?
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next, 331346, the Ohio Revised Code permits the Board of Education to authorize the Director of Business Operations to pursue advertising for bids with certain parameters as set forth. This year's resolution is the same as the authority granted for the last several years.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next is a resolution authorizing me to act on behalf of the Board of Education and, when appropriate, file complaints with the Board of Revision, Board of Tax Appeals on non-residential properties we believe do not reflect fair market value.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next Annually, the Board of Education authorizes me to request advance against the first half and second half real estate taxes as funds become available. We would ask for that authority again this year.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Many of the federal, state grants, and local grants that would be of interest and benefit to the school district often require that the governing board express formal approval and authorization for submitting an application. In past years, we've been able to satisfy those conditions when they exist by this resolution. It authorizes the superintendent to exercise his judgment on grants that would benefit the school district, subject, of course, to once a grant's received, the board still has to accept the monies and appropriate the funds. So we'd ask for the approval again this year.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And next is another make the auditors happy resolution to authorize me to maintain petty cash funds and change funds as listed in the exhibit presented. And we would ask that authority for a grand total of $5,900.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next is another auditor regulatory issue. We're requesting that you grant me authority to enter into relatively small financial commitment contracts on behalf of the school district as it relates to student activity programs. The definition of relatively small financial commitment are those that do not exceed $2,500. Above that amount, it would still come to the board for authorization.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next, another auditor regulatory issue. We're requesting authority for non-salary remuneration for employees. In essence, this provides authority for us to expend up to $100 per meeting to provide light refreshments when there is a district-sponsored activity involving staff members and faculty members, and would also include the cost of any awards that might be granted to them, again, not to exceed $100 per employee.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Miller, I'm sorry. Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next, another regulatory resolution dispensing with separate resolutions approving checks drawn upon a Board of Education account prior to issuance to vendors. We've been granted this authority. It still requires all the other audit requirements be followed as far as documentation, receipt of goods, funds available, budget monies available, so forth. So we ask for authority again.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next is another auditor regulation authorizing us to utilize blanket purchase orders in accordance with both board policy and the Ohio Revised Code. There are occasions where we're making purchases for multiple periods of time. A great example are utilities, where rather than every time issuing a separate purchase order for every building every month to pay the utility bills, we're able to follow an audit procedure that allows us to issue one open purchase order for the entire year. So for those non-discretionary ongoing expenses, we request authority to continue to authorize blanket purchase orders.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Wilson?
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And thankfully, that concludes the agenda items for the organizational meeting. Motion.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And we're at the appointed hour to,
Begin the tax budget hearing.
yes.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Here?
Ms. Jisling?
Present?
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Miller? Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Tuttle?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Wilson?
We previously distributed to the Board of Education and posted public notice in the News Herald and on our website of the annual tax budget that's required to be adopted between now and the 1st and 15th of the month and filed with the Lake County Budget Commission no later than January 20th. The purpose of a tax budget dates back to the Depression era of the early 1930s, where it was decided that local governments had to justify the need for tax levies that were already on the books before the county auditor and county treasurer could collect those taxes. We comply with that. The document's been shrunk down to a very short document, and we are basically requesting that the general fund ask for the collection of $75,399,982, and the permanent improvement fund request collection of $1,453,901. In both cases, our requests significantly exceed the amounts we expect to be certified as available and actually collected. The reason for this is that we do have deferred needs in the area of technology and instruction in the general fund, that if monies were available, we have a pre-planned need to use those funds. And likewise, in the permanent improvement fund, we have deferred maintenance projects that could be designated for the receipt of any excess collections. As the board knows, for a number of years, we've been fortunate that prior delinquent taxes have been collected. There will be a sale of delinquent tax notes sometime this year, and sometimes there are other occurrences that generate additional tax revenues. Unfortunately, while it's rare, it has happened around the state where if the actual receipts exceed the tax budget amount, the monies are withheld from the school district and those needs. So annually, we prepare this document to show the justification to use any monies that may be collected or available through the annual tax process. It does not include an increase in the tax rates that homeowners and businesses pay, but rather documents our need to use those funds that may become available. The one good note is there is no request for tax dollars for the bond retirement fund, in that we paid off the last of our voter paid debt in December of 2013. So what that means is we're debt-free, and the monies we're requesting now are for current purposes. At this time, it is considered a public hearing. If the board has questions or the public has questions, the tax budget will be presented for adoption as part of our regular meeting a little later on. But this satisfies the legal requirement for a public hearing. So at this time, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
All right, well, we've satisfied the requirements of a tax budget hearing, and
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And the regular meeting is scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. We should wait until the advertised time to start that meeting, so we have 8 minutes or so.
the script.
Oh, here you go. Yes, you do. And
It's been a while since I read it. Thank
You
you.
had that memorized.
It's been 2 years. Thank you. The January 13th regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education is called to order. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 3313.15 of the Ohio Revised Code. Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Briner?
Here.
Ms. Jisling?
Present.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Tuttle?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sounds different when the kids know.
Yes, sounds great.
Yes, it does.
Kids are belting it out.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 13th, 2015 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval via the district's paperless Board of Education agenda web system board docs. The public can access the agenda through the school district's website. The agenda is available through the district's website for public viewing and the Sunday prior to the board meeting. Board members have the opportunity to call the superintendent and the chief financial officer for information concerning agenda items and to request, if needed, additional information. There are 2 places on the agenda when the board entertains comments from the community. The first hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on agenda items only. The second hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on any subject, whether it is an item on the agenda or another issue. When addressing the board, please state your name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please address questions to the president. This meeting is being televised on a delayed basis and will be shown on Time Warner Cable Channel 96.96 in Mentor and Channel 96.22 in Mentor on the Lake. The meeting can also be found on our YouTube channel, Cardinal TV Mentor, Ohio. Please place your mobile phones on silent mode during the meeting. Approval of the minutes, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, the December 9, 2014 minutes includes a correction on page 434. It was the approval of appropriation modifications. We discovered in preparing the minutes after the meeting that we had an incorrect account code for one transaction for the Mentor High School Amy Shaw Memorial Fund. We've corrected the account number and also corrected the dollar amount. There was a rogue zero there. The correct amount is $200. The original agenda had $2,000. So we ask that you include that correction to the typos as part of the approval of the December 9th meetings and also approve the special meeting on December 13th as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes. Next on the agenda, hearing of the public on agenda items only. Hearing none. Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. I have the following recommendations and recommend approval of consent agenda item 5A1 and 5A2.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. President and members of the board, January is School Board Recognition Month. The entire Mentor Schools community thanks you for everything you do to make the school system so successful. Tonight we have students from Fairfax Elementary who have a presentation for you, and I'll ask Mrs. Kriz, the principal at Fairfax, to begin.
Well, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Wilson, excuse me. Thank you for this opportunity to share our ideas of our appreciation for each and every one of you and your responsibilities serving as members of the Mentor Schools Board. Our theme this evening is a rainbow. A rainbow is believed to represent hope, success, and good fortune. Rainbows are also believed to mean that you are headed in a positive direction. It is with great appreciation for each of you that we in the Mentor Public Schools are experiencing hope, success, good fortune, as well as headed in a positive direction. At this time, I would like to introduce the Fairfax Student Council President, Gwen Wheatgraff, to begin our presentation.
Hello. Hello, my name is Gwen Wheatgraff. Red, security. Red is the first color of the rainbow. Did you know red has the longest wavelength, which symbolizes security? You are the red in our rainbow. Thank you for making sound decisions that help to keep us safe and secure in our school.
Hello, my name is Devin Ambus. Orange, wisdom. Orange is the second color in the rainbow. Orange is a very warm color. It is dynamic, yet thoughtful. You are the orange in our rainbow. Thank you for your wisdom, which keeps us on the cutting edge of education while maintaining our strong foundation.
Hello, my name is Carter Collins. Yellow energy. Yellow is the next color of the rainbow. Yellow represents the color of the sun, which is vibrant and full of energy. Yellow also means bright and happy. You are the yellow in our rainbow. It takes a great deal of energy and enthusiasm to serve on the Board of Education, and we thank you for your service.
Well done.
Hello, my name is Haley Amherst. Green, harmony. Green is the fourth color in the rainbow. It is located in the center of the spectrum. Green symbolizes harmony and balance. You are the green in our rainbow. Thank you for working together to promote harmony among all of our stakeholders in the mentor community.
Hello, my name is Autumn Stockmaster. Blue, peace. Blue is the fifth color in the rainbow. The color blue is said to bring about peace and understanding, in addition to the easy flow of communication. You are the blue in our rainbow. Thank you for communicating peacefully with one another and leading by example.
Hello, my name is Jenna Place. Indigo, intuition. Indigo is the next color of the rainbow. Indigo symbolizes intuition and self-mastery. You are the indigo in our rainbow. Thank you for your intuition to remain steadfast and focused on the district's vision and what is best for students.
Hello, my name is Azzy Vaughn. Violet, loyalty. Violet is the final color in the rainbow, giving it the strength to reach up and out. The color violet symbolizes loyalty. You are the violet in our rainbow. Thank you for your never-ending loyalty to help us reach our fullest potential with cardinal pride.
In closing, we would like to quote a Judy Garland song that goes something like, "Somewhere over the rainbow where dreams come true." And we would like to thank you for making all of our dreams come true in the Mentor Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Fairfax. Thank you to our students and to the parents who came tonight. And I loved how the colors were coordinated with the outfits.
Thank you very much.
I caught that after probably the third one. So thank you. We have gifts for you. The board wanted to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And actually, if you guys don't mind, and maybe your teacher or principal told you something else, you can go back and sit down, because I got one more thing I want to do real quick that I want you to see. Come back and sit back in the seats for me, will you, please, in the front? You know what? I got those for siblings. There's a nice little girl in a pink dress over here, and a girl in the back.
Two of the Fairfax kids.
Yep. Oh, those two. There you go.
Over here, Mr. Tuttle. Yep, got another one here too.
And right there.
Over here, Tom.
Behind you.
Again, thank you on behalf of the board. I know they really appreciate it. It's one of the neat things we get to witness and see, and thank you, Mrs. Kriz and staff, for making this happen, and the parents that are here as well. I wanted the students to see this next part that we're going to do, and it won't take up too much time because I know you want to get home and get homework done and get ready for bed soon. But how many of you have been on a yellow school bus before? Either going to school or on a field trip or something like that. Well, tonight you get to see something, and it just kind of worked out because you're here. We get to recognize our bus drivers. So I'm not sure how many of you are walkers or how many of you are bus drivers, but I'm guessing with the great turnout we had in support of our transportation department, our drivers and our maintenance department that helps out in getting the buses ready, that your bus driver is probably in this room, or one of them who have taken you on a trip before is in this room. So I have the privilege to recognize Karen Girardi, who's our Director of Transportation. If she could come down on behalf of the whole department and the maintenance fleet. Mr. President and members of the board, we are very proud to report for the 8th time in a row, the Ohio Department of Education's review of our transportation efficiency has ranked our school district the most efficient when compared to districts our size. So that's 50 buses or more. Number 1 in the state of Ohio. Congratulations to our transportation department. I want to thank Mrs. Girardi for her leadership with the department, and at any time our bus drivers and our fleet guys and the behind the scenes people and office people out at the service building get the opportunity to recognize themselves or one of their own, they always turn out like this. And that's great to see from my perspective, and I think the board's perspective too. So on behalf of the administration, thank you very much, and congratulations on 8 years in a row. Wow. Well done.
I would really like to thank the Board of Education, Mr. Miller, Mr. Wilson, and everyone for the support they have shown the Transportation Department and for honoring us tonight. None of this would happen if it wasn't for all the people behind the scenes. So I would really like to thank Mr. Zombori and all the mechanics, my bus assistants, my substitutes, my office staff, and last but not least, my bus drivers. They're a great group of people, and we couldn't have done any of this without them. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we're going to take a quick break, if that's okay, so that our drivers can get home to get ready for the morning run, and our students can get home too. So thank you. You're welcome to stay, but we'll take about a 3 to 4 minute break here. This would be the time to go if you want to sneak out.
Here we go. Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, I've asked Mrs. Bonas to update you on the middle school and high school curriculum revisions.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Wilson, I am honored to have the opportunity to share with you proposed curriculum changes that will provide Mentor students with extensive new opportunities beginning in the 2015-2016 school year. I would like to begin by discussing the changes proposed by the Middle School Change Committee. Plans include substituting 8th grade integrated tech with 8th grade health, adding a 6th grade honors math and ELA course, and updating applied tech curriculum to provide STEM opportunities for students. The standalone integrated tech curriculum has become outdated now that technology standards are embedded into Ohio's new learning standards. These new state standards require teachers to integrate technology into their units of instruction. The district also provides instructional coaches who provide professional development in the areas of technology and instruction. Beginning next year, all 6th grade students entering middle schools will be provided an iPad. The basic technology skills taught currently in 8th grade will become obsolete. The committee has also recommended adding a 6th and 8th grade health course. In the past, health was provided to 7th grade students. Now middle school students will receive health instruction in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Students at this age are at a critical stage of development in terms of receiving their health education to learn how to maintain and improve their mental, physical, emotional, and sexual health. The middle school health classes enable students to gain the knowledge and skills to make healthy choices throughout high school and beyond. The curriculum contains 9 units of instruction aligned to the National Health Education Standards and addresses the dangers of bullying and other behaviors that can lead to emotional problems in youth. In addition, these courses will provide placement for high school health and PE teachers that may be displaced due to the PE waiver option and required online health course. The Middle School Change Committee also recommended the addition of 6th grade honors ELA and math courses. Current math honors courses begin in 7th grade, where students are expected to cover the regular 7th grade honors curriculum and 8th grade standards in order to prepare for Algebra 1 in 8th grade. The addition of the 6th grade honors course enables us to restructure the curriculum so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade standards can be taught over a 2-year span, permitting students to dive deeper in the curriculum rather than rushing through it. This will provide a solid foundation to ensure honor students are prepared to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. The 6th grade ELA honors course will present students with more complex reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and research tasks that exceed the level of rigor demanded by the Common Core state standards. This course focuses on active engagement with text, and students will be required to analyze and critique fictional and non-fictional text. The middle school applied tech curriculum has also been updated to incorporate STEM-based units from Project Lead the Way. STEM instruction is an integrated, interrelated model that bridges science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Through design and project-based learning, students begin to weave their understanding of STEM into an interrelated use of skills, rather than 4 discrete subjects. As a result, concepts once solely taught in isolation are made relevant and tangible through students' application of these interdisciplinary skills. Through topics like robotics, flight in space, and green architecture, middle school students engage their natural curiosity and imagination in creative problem solving. Project Lead the Way's Gateway program is a strong foundation for further STEM learning in high school and beyond, challenging students to solve real-world problems such as building and programming real-world objects and designing sustainable housing solutions. Using the same advanced software and tools as those used by the world-leading companies, students will learn how to apply math, science, technology, and engineering into their everyday lives. Our 7th and 8th grade applied tech teachers will attend intensive training scheduled this summer to help them transform their traditional applied tech classrooms into state-of-the-art STEM labs. The next slide outlines the proposed changes at the high school. The first of 4 items listed on this slide are possible due to the district's acquisition of the straight-age grant, which was appropriately titled High School Blended and Online Learning Pathways to Success. The grant will not only provide funding for these new opportunities for our students, but has also encouraged us to partner and share resources with Kirtland schools. Currently, 7 states require high school graduates to take at least one online course. Ohio is not on the list yet, but we believe they are moving in the same direction. Our Straight A grant explained that having students experience online learning environments will prepare them for college due to the recent growth of online learning at a college level. Next year, we are proposing requiring all high school students to take health online. Students taking online health will report to a digital learning lab daily, and counselors will monitor completion. Once students demonstrate success working independently, they will be permitted to complete their coursework at the hub or student center. Our economics teachers are also creating a blended course. In this model, students will report to class and receive traditional face-to-face instruction 2 days per week and will complete online curriculum the other 3 days. Teachers will monitor online coursework on Fridays and have office hours available. The curriculum and standards addressed in these courses are not new, only the delivery will be different. One of the most exciting opportunities provided by the Straight A grant is the addition of 23 brand new online electives. These electives will provide expanded course offerings for our students that our district could not afford to run through traditional instructional models due to staffing costs. Courses include the addition of 3 languages, 3 AP courses, and 11 additional courses. We expect these electives will become high-interest courses for our high school students. The curriculum department is also requesting approval for the 3 digital curriculum materials. Connections Learning will be used for the new full online elective courses. Pearson GradPoint is currently being piloted at the Success program and is being used as a blended curriculum in which students interact with both online curriculum and receive support and project-based learning instruction from Mentor certified teachers. Finally, the Apex curriculum will continue to be used for online coursework at the Cardinal Achievement Academy, but additional seats will be purchased for online health and used as supplemental curriculum for the blended economics course. Another exciting portion of the Straight A grant is the addition of new distance learning courses. Mentor is partnering with Kirtland to provide additional course options for students with the use of distance learning technology. Mentor teachers will be teaching AP Fine Art and AP Psych to Kirtland students, and Kirtland teachers will be teaching C++ programming and anatomy and physiology to Mentor students. We are also partnering with Lakeland and Perry to provide an advanced math course, Calc 3, for our advanced students. The Lakeland professor will travel between Perry and Mentor on alternate weeks, and student will use the new Mediascape technology located in the hub. Students will earn 2 semesters of college credit upon completion of this course. Another exciting addition to the high school program of studies is our new Gen Yes course. The Gen Yes blended curriculum provides training a team of student technology leaders. These leaders support other students, educators, and campus staff by managing a tech support desk or Genius Bar located in the hub. The tech support desk will be available throughout the day. In addition to learning technology, they will obtain customer service, teamwork, mentoring, and leadership skills. The High School Social Studies Curriculum Review Committee recommends the addition of an Honors World History course to meet the needs of our 9th grade honors students. This accelerated course examines world events from 1492 to present and places greater emphasis on historical thinking skills. This course also investigates the world wars that changed empires, the ideas that led to independence movements, and the effects of global interdependence. This course will help students prepare future advanced placement courses in social studies, such as AP Capstone STEM Seminar, which is another new high school course offering. AP Capstone is an innovative program from the College Board that equips students with independent research, collaborative teamwork, and communication skills that are increasingly valued by colleges. The AP Capstone degree offers students a unique opportunity to distinguish oneself to colleges and universities. AP Capstone is built on the foundation of a new 2-course high school sequence, AP Seminar and AP Research, and is designed to complement and enhance the in-depth discipline-specific study provided through AP courses. AP Capstone Seminar is scheduled to begin in fall of 2015, and AP Capstone Research will be phased in the following year. Students will earn an AP Capstone diploma if they score a 3 or higher on both AP Capstone courses and completion of 4 additional AP exams. In conclusion, this new programming will provide additional opportunities for our students and help prepare our students for the future. We believe the new online and blended learning models will promote increased student engagement, positively impact student achievement, and provide our students with college and career readiness skills. As Mr. Miller has stated in the past, there are things we are required to do and things we choose to do. This is just another example of how Mentor Public Schools is moving beyond state requirements to provide additional educational options for our students. Detailed documents reviewing the revisions discussed in this presentation was included in your board docs. Before Mr. Miller requests approval for the revisions, I will entertain any questions the board may have.
I just had a question about the honors classes that our 6th graders will be able to sign up for. How do you make that determination? What percentage of the total student body at that 5th grade level do you anticipate moving into those honors sections?
The committee right now is developing a rubric, a placement rubric, using 5th grade test scores, grades, and that rubric is going to drive the placement of those students in those courses. So that's, you know, after that rubric is developed, we'll have a sound way to place those students in those classes, and they won't be locked into the classes, so students can enter and leave the classes, so it's not like they're locked in the track. So
That sounds so good because, you know, part of the total provision for students is to challenge our gifted students as well. I love seeing that those expanded offerings address the needs and interests of students at all those different levels.
How many sections do you anticipate?
right now, until we get the rubric developed and get the 5th grade scores back, we're not exactly sure how many sections, but it should not affect staffing.
Do you have an expectation that once the STEM curriculum, that the tech track that the middle school kids will have a chance to explore, that it will have an impact on the high school curriculum offerings to kind of pair with that?
Yes, there is Project Lead the Way curriculum that we would love to expand to the high school, but that will have to take some time just for funding purposes and when we revamp that curriculum at the high school level. So yeah, absolutely, that's on the radar.
And you mentioned that our integrated tech teachers will be getting additional training to help with the interdisciplinary piece. Is there possibility of there being kind of co-teaching maybe going on in those courses where teachers from those various science and mathematics disciplines, for example, might partner in some way?
Well, actually, there is a collaboration site that they do partner with, and other schools around the different districts, they have been visiting and going to see that in action. So they have developed a community or a PLC outside of the Mentor Schools district.
And will there be some changes or improvements in the individual middle schools to beef up the the learning environment, whether it's in a regular classroom or somehow?
Yes, they will be receiving materials. There will be a 3D printer, a laser engraver, and a vinyl cutter, along with the materials that go with the flight and space and the robotics and design, flight and space, and green architecture. So they're materials that will be beefed up for those courses.
Exciting. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Bonas. I just think that as a parent, one, I wish I had kids that were younger, that were coming up through the system when you see these offerings, but I think that that our parents are going to be very impressed with the work that the curriculum department has done and the offerings, that opportunities, like you said in one of your slides, for all the kids, so thank you.
I did one other question. When it comes to the cost of the AP exams, I know that that's a significant thing. Is that something that our students are able to avail at no cost, partial cost, or do they bear the total cost?
I believe they bear the total cost of that.
It depends.
Oh, it depends. Mr. Wade could help with
It's
that.
$89. It could go up this year. We haven't received the exact prices yet. Students are on free or reduced lunch. They can get some of that subsidized. And we can cover those costs, and then we get reimbursed from the state on that. Well, not from the state, from the college board, actually.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bonas. This, at this part of the board meeting is where the addendum would be. So as Mrs. Bonas mentioned, it was all loaded up into board docs. We inadvertently did not include the, my part where I would be recommending the attached middle school and high school curriculum revisions be approved with the, effective with the 2015-2016 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Lynch will update you on the Straight A grant initiatives.
Members of the board, Mr. Miller, Mr. Wilson, I want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to keep you updated on the progress of the Straight A grant. Ms. Bonas provided many great details about the curriculum side of the grant in her presentation. I am going to focus on the completion and the use of the hub, classroom renovations, paradigm, and the professional development for our high school staff. Let's begin with the hub. With our snow days last week, our students have only had 4 days to spend in the hub. I think you will find by many of these images that they have quickly settled into finding a great space that meets their needs. Since your last visit to the hub, we have also added the benches by the windows have been added with cushions, and also we've had our final furniture delivery, which are the 8 chairs you saw in that last image. The small group workspaces have provided students the opportunity to work with their classmates in a more private setting to maximize their learning time. Treadmills are being used. Look who even caught using one here. Another favorite amongst the students are the booths. Almost every period you will find this space being used by our students. The campfire tables with circular paper inserts have also been very popular. Charging, no problem. Ryan is plugged in at the post and beam area. Flexible, this table and ottomans were not here to start the day. Take a listen to what some of our students had to say about the hub.
Hey guys, we're here in the hub. I really like the hub a lot because it's really refreshing and really modern looking.
I like the hub because it's more of a college environment than high school.
I like it because it makes me want to learn.
I like it because it's a comfortable place to do my homework.
The hub does rock. Let's move on to talk about our classroom renovations. The first 2 pictures are from our first pilot classroom that was completed right before break. Students began the second semester in their newly renovated room, and it did not take them long to find the space where they feel most comfortable learning. We were also able to redistribute one of our MacBook carts in the district so that we could begin to see the benefits and challenges that our one-to-one initiative will bring. To our surprise, one of the most popular areas in the classrooms are the high tables. Take a listen to why Nick likes his new classroom, then watch the classroom in action and take note where Miss Richards is in the classroom.
Hello, we're in Mrs. Richards' new classroom that was newly renovated, and it's a super cool space. As you can see, there are couches for our lounging pleasure as we study and learn all of the wonderful things Miss Richards teaches us. We have these cool tables that are like paper filled, and so you just work on it and then you tear it off, and they're also Lazy Susans. What more do you want? We got walls just lined with whiteboards that you can work on. We have all of our group activity up here so everyone can edit and stuff. We've got 2 TVs that we can AirPlay anything, so if we want to show our groups or any other groups the stuff we're working on the interwebs, we can just pop them up on there, and then everyone can see them.
Are you sort of going in the middle of all of what they think?
We just don't have enough yet. There's not
How are you, what's your extra?
Let's move on to talk about our Professional Development Center paradigm. It began as a wide open field, then a cardinal and a few students arrived along with a dirt pile. This was quickly taken over by some much heavier equipment. The field is now being shaped and dug into to allow Paradigm to sit there in just 6 short months. The water line is in. Footing should start next week. Steel will be on site by the middle of February. Take a look at this time-lapse video showing the changes. This will be exciting to see as Paradigm starts to really take shape. Professional development will be a major focus as we move through the next few months. Over the next 2 weeks, the entire Mentor High School staff will be trained on Schoology, our learning management system. Beginning in January and concluding in May, we will have monthly 2-hour professional development sessions that will focus on online resources and other technology tools that support the blending learning format. The months that lie ahead will be very busy. We will continue to monitor the use of the hub and support our staff and students to make sure this space aligns with our goals. We are currently out to bid for the remaining 59 classrooms that are being renovated at Mentor High School. We will be presenting this information to the board in the next month. As construction of Paradigm continues, we will be working to finalize all of the furniture that will populate the space. I look forward to sharing all of the progress made at next month's board meetings. I will gladly entertain any questions that the board has. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Thanks for a great open house, too, with the hub and the opening. I thought that was well attended, phenomenal. Shout out to you, also to the administrative team for getting that ready for the public. Also, Mr. Lynch's wife and sons helped get that space ready for the open house as well. He won't tell you that, but I will. So thank you for that. Mr. President, members of the board, I'm recommending approval of agenda item C1 related to certified staff and items C2, 3, and 4 all related to human resource matters.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Wilson?
Ms. Jesling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Thank you. This concludes my part of tonight's agenda.
If I may, under Board of Education section, item 1 is approval of a resolution of declaration of urgent necessity for St. Gabriel School Mobile Unit Replacement Project. The Mentor Public Schools serve as the fiscal agent for state funding for non-secular use by the parochial schools within our geographic boundaries. There is a state funding source that allows for the replacement of certain mobile classroom units on parochial school sites. St. Gabe's has been challenged since the beginning of the school year with the loss of space from the old unit that's been deemed to be unsafe and inadequate, and they've temporarily relocated the students inside their regular building with some challenges in services to both regular and special needs students. There is a provision in the Ohio Revised Code that allows for a waiving of the traditional bidding of a project and allows us to accept the bid based on some quotations. Again, we're serving as fiscal agent and have deferred to the principal of St. Gabriel's to take the lead on this. We're asking to help expedite the project that the board declare an urgent necessity, waive the competitive bidding provisions, and authorize us to proceed with the project with one important contingency, and that's that the state of Ohio still has to provide the final approval for the project and the corresponding funding for it. So with this action, as soon as the state provides the funding authorization, we would be ready to proceed to facilitate their need for the replacement unit. So while this is out of the ordinary, 100% state funded and at the request of St. Gabe. So we're asking for board consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Anyone? Please call the roll. Mr. Olson?
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And the second item, if I may, for a number of years predating my time in the district, we have had agreements with beverage providers for funding to be the exclusive provider of certain beverages to the school district, and in exchange for that, they provide some funding to the school district. Our current agreement with Pepsi Cola Bottling Company had expired last summer. It was operating on a month-to-month continuation. Mr. Miller asked for us to go out and solicit new interest. We solicited the three remaining beverage companies, Pepsi, Coke, and 7-Up bottling. We received quotations from both Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Mr. Miller and I met with both representatives and determined that the most advantageous financial deal, and based on a very successful working relationship over the past 5 years, we would ask the board to renew the beverage agreement with Pepsi Cola Bottling Company for a new 5-year period. So we're requesting authorization to enter into that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. Mr. Wilson?
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes. Legislative report, that's my part of the agenda. House Bill 290, well, you know, the lame duck session is finally over. They've been sworn in.
Thank God.
House Bill 290, the bill that provides immunity from civil liability for a school district and schools when permitting members of the public, has moved forward, but still has been passed. I reviewed that at the last meeting. That's a good thing. I would like to speak just for a minute on the safety drills requirement. It's kind of interesting. The basis for that safety drills is safety for the schools. But and it's not unique to any legislation, but there's changes been added to that bill that don't apply to safety drills and safety, which I find amusing, but it's what they do best. They've added restraint seclusion rules to it. They've added private schools located in the boundaries of a school district adjacent to Cleveland Municipal School District to enroll students under the Cleveland Scholarship Program. It also makes an appropriation for the Old Fort Local School District's costs related to the transfer of the Bettsville Local School District. Who knows? And then regarding another one that's very interesting, that's the, I reported last month and perhaps the one before that, regarding the addition to health class, the instruction on the impact of prescription opioid abuse prevention in the health curriculum. Well, there's a whole long list of things that they've added to that. It does not apply to that at all. And I'm not going to read that to you, but it's in there in my notes. It's very interesting. over and over again, they do this, and in the years that I've been the legislative liaison, this I found to be true in so many things. But I would like to add a kind of a comment. What I've found in general, it is so difficult for public schools, and I applaud our administration, the superintendent, Mr. Wilson, and the team for staying on top of all these regulations and these changing laws. It never ends. It absolutely never ends. Would you agree, Mr. Wilson? Absolutely. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
So I applaud all of you. You don't have a law degree, but you certainly need one. So that's it. I'd like to go on. Any comments, questions?
Was there a recent update on the 5 of 8? Wasn't there a vote on that?
They did pass legislations to eliminate the 5 of 8 rule.
That's what I thought.
So, and as we said out in public, and I'll say it again, it's not an idea I subscribe to. I don't believe in the changes that they made, and I don't think there was enough public discussion prior to state board vote. And I was a little surprised by that.
Just to confirm, this was the state school board that passed that,
Correct.
But again, it allows local school districts to make the decision.
It does, and it provides some flexibility, but I think in some places it gives districts an out. And I'm not sure that's in the best interest of the students in the state of Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, we presented the financial statements for the month of December 2014, indicating that revenues are right on track, 50.9% with 50% of the year completed. Expenses at 45.5% with 50% of the year completed, comparing to 45.3% last year at this time. So we request the board approve the statements as presented and have them placed on file for audit.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Ms. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
It's recommended the investment transactions for the month of December 2014, presented in Exhibits 7-B, be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Ms. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
It's recommended the interfund transfers presented in Exhibit 7-C be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Ms. Wilson.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
It's recommended the appropriation modifications as listed in Exhibit 7-D be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
It's recommended that the supplemental appropriations listed in Exhibit 7-E be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
It's recommended the invoices presented for payment authority be approved as presented in Exhibit 7-F.
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll, Ms. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
And based on the earlier tax budget hearing this evening, it's recommended that the fiscal year 2016 tax budget be approved as presented and discussed during the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Next, annually, we're asked to recertify at the first meeting in January the current tax rates with an expectation they may be refined after State Board of Taxation approval in February, but at this time we're asking that the current tax rates be approved and authorized and certified to the county auditor as presented in Exhibit 7-H.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll, Mr. Wilson.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
That completes my items this evening.
Do we have any unfinished business to discuss? New business? Hearing of the public? Items other than the agenda? Okay, hearing none. We are going to go into executive session. There will be.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll, Ms. Wilson.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Or Ms. Miller, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle. We should
Yes.
say, for the record, the purpose of the executive session is to
Everything but
perform a
Steve
mid-year review of the superintendent.
Sorry. Motion?
You got it. Yeah, we're all set.
Okay.
No, unless you're